On day 7, we will leave Dickinson and head over to Theodore Roosevelt National Park, where we will look around the national park on its scenic route, and then we will head over to Miles City, where we'll be spending the night. We're having a light rain as we leave Dickinson, and it'll be raining most of the time we're on this trip. Soon we're arriving in Medora. It's shutting down, as we said earlier, for the season, and so we'll be eating here, but there's only a few places to eat still left open. Theodore Roosevelt National Park is divided into 3 sections. The northern section, with its longhorn steers and cannonball concretions, is much further north. The Elkhorn Ranch area is where Roosevelt bought his second ranch, and we will be exploring the southern area here in Medora. In fact, the entrance is right here in city limits. Theodore Roosevelt said he'd never have been president if it wasn't for his experiences here in North Dakota. We'll be following this route through the park. The red areas are closed to motorized vehicles because of the landslide, so we have to go there and then we'll be coming back. And then we'll go back to the Painted Canyon area to look at that area also. It was in fog when we came by earlier today. It was the geology of this area that inspired Theodore Roosevelt, that when he became president, he set up the first national park, Yellowstone. And now it's time for us to get started. We drive a little bit slow, so I'm going to speed this up, or it'll take 4 hours to get around the loop. At our first stop, as we're looking at the geology, a coyote runs across the road. We don't even notice until later when I'm looking at the dash cam video. Our first major stop is Prairie Dog Town. These little creatures are all over. They used to cover almost all of the western part of the United States, but have been killed off mainly by ranchers who don't want them on their land, so they're on national parks now. Many different animals eat them, and maybe this is why the coyote was hanging around this area. This is a medium-sized town. Some of these can be huge. There's one that's 15 square miles in Wind Cave National Park we'll see near the end of our trip. And then we had a short drive to Peaceful Valley Ranch, and there we see some wild turkey in the field. Peaceful Valley Ranch was first a working ranch, then it was a CCC camp, headquarters for the park, a dude ranch, a horseback trips from here, and now it's been closed for the last few years. As we're leaving, some of those wild turkeys run in front of us. Our next stop to get out and take pictures is mainly a geology stop. Some beautiful and unusual rocks with many different colors. And then Deborah's the first to see the buffalo in the distance. On down the road further, we come to a much larger herd of bison. And they're on both sides of the road, right by the road. In fact, one's in the middle of the road. down the hill here. After looking at the bison, we come to Boycott Overlook, looking down across the valley of the Badlands. Be hard to travel through this, but it's a beautiful place. And then it's time to keep on heading around. Then we head up Buck Hill Road on its dirt and gravel road to the top of the scenic overlook. After coming down, we head on down the road. We're almost at the end of where we can go. And now we come to the end of the road. As we said before, it was closed due to a landslide, and Badlands Overlook will be the last we see before we turn around and head back. The Native Americans call this Makoshiki, which means no good land, and got translated into Badlands. And now it's time to turn around and head back the way we came. We'll look at some of it from the other side as we go. Is they're still there? They probably will be. And as we head back, the new angle of view gives us an opportunity to look down a canyon, and there's the wild horses that roam here. And then it's time to head on down the valley more. And as we do, we see the rocks along each side and how they've been carved by the wind and rain. we're passing the prairie dog town, and you can see from this how long this is. It's almost a mile long. And then we're back at the visitor center near Medora, and we'll look around it some. We've now returned to the Medora area, and we're going to be looking around here some. We're greeted with a statue of Theodore Roosevelt and a sign telling us where we can pet wildlife, the fluffy cows, as they call them. Probably don't want to pet them anywhere. In 1883, Theodore Roosevelt came west in order to hunt bison, he said, but he soon found out they were almost all gone. So he returned to New York, and the next year, both his mother and his wife died the same day in the same house. He was totally grief-stricken and left his sister to take care of his young child, and came out here in 1884 and built the Maltese Cross Ranch in this cabin. He became a cattle rancher and an adventurer for several years until he failed and ran out of money. This is the original cabin. It was moved here in 1959. Inside the visitor center is a museum of some of the things that Theodore Roosevelt actually used while he was here. This is one of the skeletons that are found here in this area, for this was a swampy area. That's why the colored rocks. It's because it was sand that was laid down. We ate lunch at the Little Missouri Saloon and Dining Room. And then it was time to head back to the Painted Canyon Visitor Center on the right and to look at it. When we passed it this morning, it was in fog. There's a small museum in the visitor center, but the main attraction here is to walk along the cliff face and look over into the Badlands and Theodore Roosevelt National Park from this area. It is truly beautiful. This grass reminds us that this was a grassland when he first came here. Now one last more look, and then it's time to head to Miles City. As we head off to Miles City, we have a several-hour drive ahead of us, and we'll be spending the night there. And now we drive into Montana, and we will be in it for the next few days. Clouds seemed to be unusual and kind of interesting as we drove along. And now we arrive in Miles City and head to our hotel for the night. We'll be staying in the Econo Lodge, and that brings us to the end of day 7.